Hi, it's Andrew from Acuity Auto Redact. Welcome to the Data Protection Weekly podcast, where we wrap up all the biggest issues affecting data protection professionals in the UK each week. Okay, picture this scenario. It's a Tuesday afternoon. A junior member of staff is under a tight deadline to get something done, and just to speed things up, they decide to put a spreadsheet or a database with 5,000 customer, maybe student, maybe employee, email addresses and confidential information into a random free browser AI tool. They've not read the privacy policy. They haven't checked how it processes data. And boom, in a few seconds, you've suddenly got a major data protection issue potentially on your hands. So this is shadow IT. Shadow IT is any software, application or device that an employee uses to do their jobs that hasn't been given the explicit approval and compliance checks that a data protection officer, an IT team, a compliance team would normally give. And this is usually, back in the day, a kind of situation where someone's using a personal Dropbox or a rogue WhatsApp group, which is discussing confidential information. But in 2026, the landscape's grown even bigger. We're really now in this product-led growth cycle of quick SaaS startups, and your teams are really only a couple of clicks away from potentially entering the world of a useful shadow IT process. And I understand why this is happening. There are lots of AI tools cropping up. There are lots of new pieces of online software cropping up, and many of them have been vibe coded by AI, which is why they're exploding at such a rate. But you can't turn around and, if there is a data protection breach, as a data protection officer, say, oh, I didn't know they were doing that. You need to keep an eye on it. And it's quite difficult because people don't advertise when they're using shadow IT services. They often have a deadline, or they just can't be pestered to go through an authorization process. So again, you're not going to be able to block every AI website or new SaaS startup on the firewall or company block list. It's a losing battle. These services crop up so quickly that if one's blocked, people will just go to another. You need to really think, what's your best defense against shadow IT? And that really is an educated workforce that understands the risk. So how can you deal with it? Let's look at a couple of strategies you can use in your workplace to fight back against shadow IT, but also keep staff on board. So the reason shadow IT often exists is because employees don't want to get into trouble for using something that they shouldn't. So a culture shift is really the best way to go. You need to really launch a company-wide amnesty, maybe an amnesty week or month. Ask people to fill in a survey saying, what tools are you actually using? You might want to keep this at first anonymous because people might worry that they're going to get into trouble or that it's a witch hunt, but actually it can be useful to look at. You might find that there's tools there that people are using that make themselves more efficient, and actually it's worth it to the business to buy an enterprise license or to just do a proper data protection check to make sure it's being used safely. Again, this is just about getting the information back. You might not make it anonymous if your employees trust you to use the data ethically and not to beat people over the head with. It depends on the culture of your organisation. But you need to find out what people are actually using. That's tip number one. Number two is actually to examine your organisation and see why they're bypassing IT and compliance. Maybe the approval process for new applications and tools is long, and your internal data protection impact assessment forms are super long. And actually, all you need is a quick but rigorous process in place to sign things off. Maybe it becomes a matter of filling in a form, and within 48 hours it can be risk assessed and checked. Maybe the ordering process just needs, speeding up a little bit. If you want a quick SaaS procurement process for a cheap app that doesn't cost too much, maybe there should be a process to fast track that through and make the order, never as quick as just put it on a credit card, but somewhere where someone can data protection risk assess it and raise the order within, the same couple of days. So it's not worth trying to sign up on the sneak and not tell anybody. And, maybe if you need to do a deep data protection impact assessment, maybe it's about determining which elements you end up doing that on. If it's a big company with a big data processing agreement and a massive risk, it probably does need a thorough data protection impact assessment. But if it's a small tool that processes data very lightly, then there's perhaps a lighter, more appropriate data protection impact assessment that could be put in place if it's a tool that does a very limited amount of data processing. There's a degree of subjectivity there and people will disagree, but maybe it's worth looking at that. And my third tip is to build a sanctioned sandbox. Now, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does productivity. If you ban unauthorized generative AI tools, you've got to provide an alternative. So you need informed data protection information technology AI experts who can turn around and say, I'm sorry, that tool can't be used because the privacy policy is bad, but I know this other one that does exactly the same, maybe better. Try that instead. You need to be able to turn around and say, okay, I understand why you need that rogue tool, but here's a sanctioned one that we approve. So it's worth getting a catalogue, and there are lots of directories out there of safe, checked AI tools, and you go through the privacy policies, you go through the data protection policies if you think your organisation may need them. And when you start to see people using rogue SaaS tools and rogue AI tools, you've got an approved one in your back pocket ready to go that you can steer them towards. And that, having that safe sanctioned whitelist, is going to make a huge difference. So just to recap, shadow IT is a problem, but it is one that is born from a good place, usually, of employees. They're wanting to make themselves more productive or get a job done. So you need to meet it on those terms. Firstly, ask employees to tell you what they're using. Determine, does your workplace need something anonymous, or will it be possible for people to give their name and say, actually, I am using this and trust you? Obviously, this depends on the kind of trust size and politics of your internal organisation. Secondly, can you make the data protection impact assessment process not necessarily as rigorous and extreme if it already is? Can you actually get it down to a proper manageable risk assessment for people and reserve those big ones for things that are huge processes, maybe differentiated ones as well, and making sure that your ordering process is efficient as well? And thirdly, having that list in your back pocket of tools that you've checked out in advance that are safe, so that you can steer people towards a particular tool. Then you can say, actually, that tool's banned, but actually you can use this secure one. We've checked it out and it's safe. So they're my 3 top tips. So they're the things to look at when you are looking at how you can tackle shadow IT. Speaking of a SaaS startup that you can trust to have a rigorous data processing policy and a really strong privacy policy, and even give you a sample data protection impact assessment to show how well and ethically it's using AI, do check out acuityautoredact.com. We specialize in making the best possible redaction tool that we can get out there. It will scan documents you put into it and extract the personally identifiable information and block it out, but leave you in complete control. It's designed to be the data protection DSAR helping process that you need to get redaction done quickly without it taking control. You remain in control of the decisions, but it will save you hours of time. So join our literally hundreds of customers today and head to Acuity Auto Redact. You can start a free account and see how good this can be for your organization. Well, that's all we have time for this week. It's been great having a chat about compliance and data protection, and I'm looking forward to talking again next week.
Data Protection Weekly. Data Protection.